Hey guys, we want to thank Cap City Tees for sponsoring today's episode. That's right, Cap City Tees, the #1 printing company in Sacramento. Well, at least in our hearts. Cap City Tees is an amazing company putting out amazing quality at, most importantly, amazing prices. They are in line with any major retailer out there. Now, if you're in need of getting a shirt screen printed or embroidered, whether that's your local soccer team or basketball team or volleyball team or all the way up to corporate clothing, Cap City Tees is the place to go. So if you're in need or if you're in want, reach out to Cap City Tees at capcitytees.com or capcitytees@gmail.com. That's capcitytees@gmail.com. Welcome to the Hard Money Show, where we talk about real estate, home loans, and media. It is a good day when we can jump on the podcast and we can bring in one of my realtor partners, one of the OGs of the podcast. First one on, Lisa. Lisa, how's it going today?
Hey, how's it going, Mac? It's great. It's a fine day.
Pretty good. I'm honestly surprised. Well, we didn't really get on time. We're 12 minutes behind, but I was surprised that we got on quicker than we did, because I was like, Lisa's going to be late and I'm trying to set things up in my office, and I'm not sure how this is really going to go. So I'm glad we did it.
Hey, we pulled it together. You have little faith. Get with the program.
Well, and not only that, right? For those of you who can't see us, both of us set up our office today for recording, which is really interesting because Lisa's been waiting for some stuff to come, because we're going to be talking about some other things that we're doing. And I wanted to set up some stuff in here. So we both have a really different feel, and I am recording the video. I might put some stuff out eventually, but you got to kind of imagine, like, I'm really feeling the vibe we got. I feel like we're upping our game.
Right?
Yeah.
We're upping the ante. We're like, okay, you know what? Let's be real. Let's get serious with this.
Exactly.
I was over there sweating right beforehand. You're sweating.
But your hair looks really good too. Like, well, I guess you went to work today, right? So,
right.
Yeah.
You know, you have to be presentable in public.
Yeah, not me, because
I work the early morning though.
I work from home most of the time, so I look like trash about 98% of my life. And then when I finally have the opportunity to go outside, I'll look a little bit better, presentable at least.
So. We don't want to talk about when I'm at the gym though, because that hair is crazy.
So if you guys don't remember, Lisa is a realtor partner of mine with Orbit Realty, and we both work there. She does the real estate side, I do the loan side, and we're working together to try to bring a lot of things to the community. So I want to kind of ask you, a little bit about like how things are going. Give us an update about your business. I know you've made some moves, and it's been quite a while, right? I mean, we did our podcast last, I want to say August, right around August.
It was towards the fourth quarter of the year, I think, was our last little segment. We did a competition, remember? You and I competed.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was talking about the first time. The first
time.
Oh,
yeah. No, you're right. You're right. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, since you were first on. Yeah. If you remember, we did do the competition, and Lisa's still been doing some social media. Not as much as I want her to be doing, but, we take what we can get.
Right.
So, yeah, tell us, how have things been going?
It's been going great. So let me tell you something. It's funny. Ever since we started like the What's Good Sacramento, it gave me a whole new level of like just inspiration. And I think it comes out in how we talk and what we're talking about, because I've been getting responses. And, it's funny because as you're working and you're building relationships and thinking about new avenues to build up your business, very well firsthand, I'm not totally comfortable with camera. I'm camera shy, and you've really pushed me in the last year to try things, but it's working. It works. And it's like I'm staying relevant in people's minds. They correlate me with real estate. I've had a lot of great conversations. I had a few follow-ups that actually I'm going to be scheduling with you to do those initial conversations, to start mapping out the roadmaps for these folks to get their selves aligned to buy a house. And that's our whole point, right? It's like,
well, before we get too much into the show, right? Because we haven't actually told anybody on the podcast yet that that's what we're doing. So let's jump back. Let's talk about you, right?
Yes.
Okay. Since
So
you were on the podcast first, you got into a new relationship, you moved, right? Like you've done a lot
yes.
of things. You jumped very far ahead without telling us, the things that have been going on. And I think the big news, right, is that you're back in Sacramento. So why don't we talk some more
Yes.
about that stuff? We'll get into the show in a little bit later.
Okay, let's take a step back. So basically, if you think about playing Monopoly, I jumped forward across the board and went around twice and I won big. That sums up my life. So literally at the end of last year, I mean, talk about a game changer. Like my whole life changed. We're friends
Mhm.
outside of work. It's like once I was able to kind of let go of past lives and just really jump forward you're right. I started a relationship. We're very committed. I moved back to Sacramento and I was super excited about that because that this place is really the foundation since San Francisco. And so I felt like I really needed to get back here because this is where my business is. This is where I have a lot going on. And so moving to a new side of town, Natomas, just opened up a lot of more opportunity for me
Right.
because I'm like, okay, this is an area that I can focus on. I've sold homes here already. I'm familiar with the area. Now I live here. So now I can kind of entrench myself into the community, get to know it better because I'm local. And there's nothing grander for all of you out there who I know a lot can relate. When you commute, it's no joke. It like cuts out such a huge chunk of your life
Mm.
every day, right? So not having to worry about that commute day in and day out and get home, like visit home throughout the day is just lovely.
Well, not
And
so a
it's
lot of people don't know this, but where were you before you moved back?
Stockton. I
Yeah,
was in
that's
Stockton.
right.
And
Stockton.
I felt like I just visited there. I literally slept there. Huge house, beautiful neighborhood off the 8 Mile off of Highway 5. But because all of my work is here, I was just like, okay, you know what? I'm not really maximizing my time. So relocating here has just been such a huge win for me. And even with the brokerage, I mean, granted, yes, we work remotely, like our cars become our new homes,
Mm.
especially with real estate, but the relationships more than anything, honestly. Like a lot of my past clients have, you know, hit me up. We've been able to meet, and so they want to introduce me to other people who are interested in buying. It's just lovely. I feel such a sense of like relief,
Right.
like that pressure, and just knowing like I'm not always fighting to beat the clock now.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, great.
Well, that's the tough thing, even for like the podcast, right? Like we wouldn't have been able to do a podcast. We're doing it right now, 6 p.m. I think in the past we had to do them at 8 p.m., right? Because
Yes.
you had to drive back, you had to get your daughter ready. It was just so difficult to get things done. And granted, with like both of us, like we'll just do it at 8. But you're not wasting all that time. And I went to Stockton for grad school, and it's an hour drive, give or take traffic. And well, you have to go through that Elk Grove area in the evening, which is
Yes.
terrible. So maybe it took you longer. I don't know. But yeah, that commuting. And I think this is an interesting thing, right? This is why when we're talking about with new realtors, right? And we're talking kind of like on the show, and you and I, we talk about marketing to your local area, getting involved in networking in your local area. And that's really tough to do when you don't live in your local
In the
area,
area.
right? And
Absolutely.
it's tough because you spend so much time working out here, and your daughter was involved out here, and then you have to go back to Stockton, and you can't do the networking things you want to do. So when you told me you were moving back, even Paul and I was like, "Oh, did you hear that Lisa's moving back?" And he's like, "Yeah, she's really excited." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm excited too because like we got to get her more active. We got to get her involved." And I was like, "She can do that now because she's here." And I'm excited about that. And I can clearly see that you're excited about that because you regained. I mean, in a given week, how many hours have you gotten back because you don't have to commute to Stockton?
Oh my gosh, you figure on a daily basis, an hour to and from work alone, right? Daily. So
Mm.
that's 5 days a week. So you think about how much time, and then like you said, it's being a mom, being a nurse, being a realtor. I mean, I'm wearing so many hats, and I just felt like so many people need you.
Mm,
You know, you're always giving, giving, but then I'm like, wait a minute, I need to take a step back and reevaluate where do I want to focus because I have a lot to offer. I've got a lot of experience, knowledge base, but if you're selling yourself short
mm,
for time, which for me, and it's funny you mentioned Paul because one of our greatest conversations, and this is what I love about Paul as our broker, is he's a realist and he just said, Lisa, I want you to really think about 2023 plan, but where do you fit in that plan? Like make you the center,
mm,
and the family around it, and then your business will grow. And I
right.
was like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense because Nevi, the youngest, she's like into gymnastics, right? She wants to sing, she wants to do all these things. Now we have all this time, but that affords me more opportunities to get to know like the parents.
Mm-hmm.
Like we just had a birthday party like a couple weeks ago. I was able to host the whole thing, do the sun splash thing, all that,
Right.
and have some of our classmates, friends, and their families over our house. And it just was like, oh my gosh. And then, you get to chit chatting and they're like, oh, you sell real estate. And that's just, it's very organic,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I'm so grateful that I have you and Paul as, just colleagues because I feel like not only do we have such a passion and a drive for the business and what we're looking forward to doing and growing, but we all have similarities with the way we view our work
Mm-hmm.
ethic, right? And so time is valuable. And so I can't emphasize enough.
Yeah.
That's just
Well, the
been such
interesting
a
thing, right, kind of what you're talking about with Paul, and that's our broker. I've mentioned him a couple times. I think eventually he'll be on the podcast, but he's a very busy guy. And the conversation that we really have is we have a mixture of old school and new school at our brokerage, and we don't leverage on any one in particularly more than the other. But the big thing is Paul is very involved in anything that like his kids are involved with, he's pretty involved with. Anything his family's involved with, he's very involved with. And even like, you know, his wife isn't really involved with the school as well. And they get business from being involved. And I sometimes joke with my wife that like, all right, I think it's time for us to have a kid so we can start to network and get some deals in. But that's the reality, right? Is that when you are a parent and you're in real estate, the best way for you to network and get involved is to just do your life and maximize it, right? Get in as involved as you can with your kids' life. Get on the school boards, get on, the gymnastics boards and whatever you can do. And then and the good thing about you is you're just so organically fluid with what you're doing is like real estate's going to come up. They're going to ask you, and you're going to be like, yeah, I do nursing and I do real estate and I just launched a show, and you're going to be all bubbly about it. And people are going to respond to that. Right. And so that's what I'm really excited for you because we need, we need you to really maximize your time. Because you
Yeah.
have a lot of things going on, and now you can really do that. And I think you are doing that. You're already taking steps forward to doing that. And so we won't jump into the show yet, but I know that we've kind of talked about like getting involved in the community and going to events. Have you looked at anything like that yet?
I have. And actually, I was invited. We have mutual friends actually that own businesses and they host like mixers.
Hmm.
And so, but it's more networking towards professionals in the industry of like at this one complex. And so they have a lot of different businesses. And so, casually in conversation, he had invited me and said, hey, Lisa, anytime you want to set up shop and come, I think it'd be a great opportunity. And I was like, that is so awesome. So that was one. I also actually, through a mutual friend that's, a competitor in real estate. And here's what you'll find, guys, is no matter what hat you wear or what brokerage you work for, and this is something I've learned in all my hats and years of experience in my careers, is that you make friends and, stay neutral with everybody because at some point, you may need to call on me or I may need to call on you, right?
Right.
So it is good to know who's out there and who you can collaborate with. So this particular mutual friend linked me up with some other mutuals, and they do. And I think I mentioned this to you, Mac, that I think it would be a great opportunity for us. They do like tournaments, like
Mm,
golfing. Can't say that I know how to golf,
yeah.
but just different things where you can network with a lot of different people in the industry, but that aren't particularly loan officers or realtors, but maybe they wear other hats.
Right.
Maybe they're inspectors, da 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 da. Da. So I kind of like that, but I'm actually just kind of floating around with the idea with my little one
Hmm.
because again, emphasis on my time. So I do have more time to kind of enroll her in other extracurricular activities. And I've even thought of, okay, once I enroll her, I actually can participate or even volunteer,
Hmm.
And so for me, my style has always been just getting to know a person. They get to know me, we chit chat and all. And how many times have I gained clients,
Hmm.
out of that? And it's never a sales pitch. It's just you ask a question, I might have the answer, and we start, and it's very organic. And so those are just some things that I've been thinking about. But really, honestly, with a lot that's going on in Natomas community,
Hmm.
I'm very interested in just kind of seeing what kind of things I can dabble in over here.
Yeah, Natomas is a great area because it has a little bit of the old area and then it has a lot of new construction out there. And rightfully so because there's so much open land over there, right? And those new developments are really nice. It's been a long time since I've done a photo shoot out there, but the last time I was out there, I was in one of the new communities and the house that I went to was crazy nice. It had an actual entryway. It had a chandelier, like when you came, like the big circle entryways, had a
Yeah.
foyer, one of those, and then it had a bedroom. I'm trying to remember it off my head, but it had a bedroom, and then to the left was a big living room, and then it circles around to a big kitchen, then circles around again to the pool that was outside. And then it
Yeah.
circles back around to a master bath that has, it has its own bathtub and a shower. And then that goes back into the bedroom. And then you go upstairs, and there was another 4 bedrooms upstairs. So I
Nice.
was like, dude, this house is crazy nice. And this house is crazy nice. And it was fun to shoot it. But it's been a long time since I've been out there. So you're probably seeing all the new development out there and you're kind of like in the thick of it.
Yes. And there's a lot of growth. It's crazy. So we went out to sushi the other night, Friday.
Mm,
It's just amazing the community as a whole because I find that for I've lived in Elk Grove for a very long time, over 18 years. But when you visit different communities, now that I live in this community, people are very receptive and conversational
mm,
and very open. So we're sitting there at the sushi bar, just ordering our sushi and our food and chit chatting. And I had like, both of us had several conversations, and that's just the way this community is, like in a social setting, which I love because I'm such a social butterfly anyway. It's
mhm.
like chit chatter, but I thought, it's a really nice feeling. So it just makes me think that, the more I put myself out there and just see what other things are going on around here, I think there can be some great opportunities.
Yeah, I think so too. And that's really the key to anybody out there who's looking, I like to say that it's a two-prong attack. The first one, well, 3 prongs really, right? I always kind of leave out the actual job of being a realtor because we can teach you how to do it, but these are the sort of things that really come with repetition. So it's important that you're part of a strong team, that you have a good broker above you. So when you are getting these first deals in, you have somebody with you, you have somebody guiding you through them, and obviously doing the job correctly and well is the first prong. But I kind of leave those out because it's implied, right? It's like if you don't do your job well, then you're not going to have a career. So the two separate things that you really need to focus on in order to generate business is to learn how to brand yourself and to learn to get comfortable with being in the community. Those are the two things. And you have to find a way to balance those as well, right? And I'm sure that you've dealt with this because I know that for myself, right? Like if we do let's say the podcast, for instance, right? It's an hour commitment to film it. It's an hour commitment to get it prepped to put it up. Okay. That's 2 hours that I could have potentially spent at a networking event somewhere in Sacramento, right? Then
Right.
you consider all the time we spend posting on social media and things like that. And that's where people go too far to the left or too far to the right. Now, it's, I would say if you had to say, like, I'm only going to go all in on one, do the networking, go to events, really build relationships, because that, I think, in the long run has the largest ROI. But when people start referring you who don't know you, if you don't have a brand behind you, it's possible that people might see that. And so, what have you been doing, over the last almost a year, to help establish and develop your branding, outside of obviously being a very nice person and just talking, how's that all going for you?
So honestly, I had to get very comfortable with who I am as an individual and remind myself how much knowledge and experience I really have. And what really drew me outside of my box, honestly, was you. The motivation that you're like, push, push, push me. And I'm like, man, when I really think about it, I do have all these experiences. I have things to talk about. But I think being more comfortable with social media was a big deal for
Mm,
me because it wasn't too familiar. I can't say that I spent a lot of time on it. I still have a lot of room for improvement putting my face out there, but when people see you as a real person, and so this is my thing, I'm a real human. Like,
mm,
I really have a life outside of my jobs.
mhm,
Yes, I can sell you a house. I can do all kinds of things, but I also need to be human to you. You need to understand that I have a real life. And I find that when people see you day to day, and obviously they're reminded by our post of like, oh, yeah, she does real estate. Oh,
right,
this, da, 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 da. But then they see outside of that, oh, she has this interest, right? Now I'm real.
right.
Now there might be
Well,
somebody
like,
that
now
can
everybody knows you like sushi,
yeah,
right?
and I like
Yeah.
sushi, right? Just little things. Honestly, I've really had to work on perfecting the art of being comfortable with who I am, being real to myself, and then just like I'm not very showy with
Mm,
my face, but allowing myself to get more comfortable with that because I'm like, you know what? A name with a face is a lot,
yeah.
right? And then on top of that, if I can just be myself, express who I really am and what my interests are. I love music. I love working out. It took me a long time to get back on a regimen.
Mm,
And now again, time. Now that I have time, I'm redirecting all this energy
mhm,
because I'm naturally have a lot of energy.
right,
So I'm like, okay, now I can recenter this focus on my career goals,
right.
right? And I'm very goal driven. And that's always been the name of my game in business is I set myself up with goals and commitments, just as, for example, you and I have done,
Mm,
and I'm committed. I'm like, this is what I'm doing. This is what it's about. So I think for me, a lot of branding comes from who I really am as a person.
mm.
In addition to that, my business, right?
Right. Well, here's the interesting thing about what you're saying, right? That a lot of people don't fully understand. Now, there's personalities on Instagram, sort of the same way that actors are, they are personalities in the films that they do or the TVs that shows that they do. And you can tell the people, there's really kind of like the categories of social media influencers is you have personalities and then you have people that are their personality, right? So like some of
Right.
the my favorite people to follow on TikTok are people who build stuff, right? Who they like generally just love building stuff. And they can be anywhere from like building a house to building a car to building. I'm watching a series right now of a guy who built a basketball backboard that no matter where you hit on it, it'll go in the hoop.
I
So
need that.
yeah, it's pretty cool. So those and that's a lot closer to I think what people really want to see for people in our industry, right? Now there's that one guy that we follow who raps. He's and
Yes.
I don't know if the way he looks, it almost feels like he's in between. Like he would really love to rap, but he's not like maybe
I
he's
was trying to figure that out too. I'm like, okay, is this his real lyrics?
yeah.
Or is someone writing this or is this scripted? Like, I just want to know because I love watching them
Yeah.
though, because it makes me laugh.
Yeah, they're
Like, I'm
really
like,
good, right?
he found his niche.
But either way, the point is that I find that, I remember I must say Grant Cardone, but it's not Grant Cardone. It's oh my goodness, what's his name? Oh man, I can't remember his name, but one of the guys that I used to follow on Facebook for real estate, essentially he when he first got into real estate, he bought a super nice car because he was into cars, right? And he would
Mhm.
take his car to car shows or car meetups, and he met really high-end clients from doing that, right? Literally doing the thing that he really liked to do, the thing he wanted to be involved with, and that's what you have to do, right? And so that's what you're saying, like I'm a person, like I go to the gym and I do all these things, and you're kind of, I'm seeing that a lot more actively on your social media now,
Yeah.
like this
It's
is,
just
hey, this is what I'm
my
doing.
passion is honestly like I've been a runner since
Mm,
I was a kid. Like I love to run. Not very many people know that. You
mm,
wouldn't look at me and think that I'm more on the athletic side, but it's what's funny is my inspiration and motivation to become or get realigned, I should
mm,
say, with my health and just better self is Mo,
mm-hmm,
my other half.
yeah,
He's just very athletic. He's into sports. He's played sports, and so we talk a lot about our passions. For me, it's music
yeah,
and it's running, right? So my commitment was, I don't know if you're familiar with this. It's called MyZone, but it's
yeah,
like this heart monitor,
mm-hmm,
right? So we bought him, and I was super nervous because he's been committed to this gym
yeah,
for a long time. And I'm like, man, there's no stinking way I'm going there with you. Like, you people are crazy.
mm,
You're like nonstop. Anyway, I went.
yeah.
Okay. I finally did it. I was so proud of myself because I kept up the whole hour, and I'm telling you, I'm sweating so bad, but it really got me going, and
Mm,
I'm like, I'm on it, I'm on it, I'm back. It's like something triggered in me. Like this is how I become more creative
yeah,
because I am a very artsy, creative person by nature, but I need to have that in my life to allow the creativity to come
right,
out. And so that's, I think, what you're seeing. Like it's like the more I exercise or get back to the element of what do I truly like to do, it's that.
right,
And I'm meeting people too. You're right. You meet a lot of people. These are communities of people who work out together and they do everything together. And so I'm tapping into this world and it's all new to me,
mm,
but it's super cool and it's really exciting
yeah,
and it's something we can do together.
yeah.
So we're even thinking about,
My
yeah,
zone
yes,
is kind of, so my zone is a heart rate monitor, right? And it's a
right.
program as well. It's like if you're in the right zone to maximize cardio or maximize fat loss or whatever it is. And there's a lot of programs like this. And actually, when I used to do bodybuilding, I used to wear a heart rate monitor because you don't do a lot of cardio when you do bodybuilding. And so I wanted to kind of make sure like I was getting my heart rate up at least while I was working out and try to track how many calories I was burning. And so I think just in general, as we're talking about fitness and things like that, I think it's such a great program. And I find that communities that are built around things like that, they're able to gamify athleticism a little bit more, and it makes it a little more fun. And then you're right. Now that you start to build into communities, right? And hopefully, well, your first hope is not how do I use this community to get business, but your hope is kind of like, oh, well, I hope if somebody here does need to get real estate, that they trust me enough to want to work with me, right?
Well, and here's the thing, Mac, with this community, we're talking about like this app, right? Or this heart rate monitor, but it's so much more than that because so not only did I do the challenge of going to PsychoFit and taking the class, and
Mm,
I still have yet to go back. Hey, I got a towel
yeah.
and I got the picture on the IG right away. I was like, oh my gosh. Um, but he enrolled me or he asked permissions because you need permissions to get in specific challenges. And granted, this man that I'm with is like ranked really, really high and
Mm,
he's done a lot of stuff. And I'm over here as a newbie, but I'm in this challenge right now with people from all over the world.
mm,
Okay. So last night, so I went to the gym the other night and he goes, "Oh no, you didn't. You played dirty." And I said, "Why?" He goes, "You got that extra gym session in
Mm,
while I was with all the kids at home." And I ranked like one up above him. I said, "I swear I didn't
mm,
know." We were laughing. But anyway, he's totally like outdoing me now. But I'm just proud of myself because it's like, so now it's true. It's like, this is how I'm building
mhm.
my foundation, my business is finding my true self, what makes me happy, and then everything else flourishes around you. Because in the past week to 2 weeks alone, I've had several conversations with people who are knocking at my door saying, I'm thinking about investing, but I know right now might not be the time. I said, let me set you up with a meeting, right?
Right.
Hey, we're thinking about buying, in the next year. So these are conversations, and this is from me posting, this is from me. It When you are very passionate about something, it just comes naturally, right?
Right.
I have a true passion for real estate. I always have. And now it's just very natural. So I'm starting to
Yeah,
see.
it takes time, right? I mean, a lot of people are not, I think everybody has a weakness, right? And places that they can improve. And it takes time, right? I mean, a lot of people, I'm extremely busy and active in everything that I'm doing, right? And I'm part of this organization, this alumni association, and I just got promoted. Promoted is a weird word because it's a volunteer thing, but I got asked to take over the Pacific Northwest. So I'll be looking over Northern California up into Oregon and Washington. And I do all of these things for this. And somebody commented, when do you sleep, right? And that's been a very like that's happened a lot in my life. Two things that's happened, and a couple times people have accused me of cheating. Cheating, yeah, cheating is the best way to put it. When I was in high school, people thought that I was on steroids, and that wasn't the
Oh,
case. I just worked out 11 times a week.
right.
And so when you work out 11 times a week and, pretty much like, 20 hours a week, you're going to get big and stronger than everybody else. And then, and it's happened a couple times in work. The last time it happens when I worked for the Boy Scouts, it wasn't like I was pulled aside and they were like, "You're cheating," right? But what they
Hmm.
did was I ranked in the top, essentially in the top 5 in the country for my job, and I did so
Wow.
well that they audited my files because they thought that because in the past people had faked it and
Okay.
they checked all my files to make sure that I hadn't done that, right? And so I go super hard in everything that I'm in, and I get
Yeah.
really super involved, and a lot because I always really done that even since I was in high school. People think that I'm just like naturally good at everything that I do, right? They're like, "Oh, well, you know how to use all of this equipment and you know how to do graphic designing really well, blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Dude, I've been doing this since I was 18, right? Like of course I do."
Right.
And that's hard to translate over, right? And you've kind of probably felt that from me and where I'm like, "Hey, you got to do this and you got to do this and you got to do this." And I really this kind of hit home today actually because I'm doing some consulting right now for and I actually sent this out to you, right?
Hmm.
Bulk posting, right? How to put
Yes.
bulk social media post out. And there's a lot of different ways you can do it, but I've essentially developed a system to where you can get a month to 3 months of posting out in a couple hours, and they're high quality, it's consistent, the branding's on point, like everything's good. So I've been trying it out on other businesses, and today I had to work with a woman who was likely in her 50s or 60s, who
Uh-huh.
didn't know what an Excel file was, who didn't know what like a cell was or a tab was or anything like that. And a training that should have taken about 30 minutes took 2.5 hours, which is fine, right? But I sometimes forget. I'm like, how did she not know this? And then I remembered, well, the only reason I really know it is because I had to do it in college, right? And then after I got out of
Right.
college, I happened to go into a work field that made me use Excel, and
Hmm.
and that's the same thing. So you were talking before the show. You're like, oh, I have a camera, right? Like, maybe I'll show you. And then I was thinking in my head, I'm like, yeah, except like you can't, like, you have to have a special cord and you have to have a special program and you have to have a memory capture. And I'm like, all of this stuff I had to learn over a couple of years, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
people get really intimidated about that. And I think that you've done a great job with trying to keep as consistent as you can and kind of going over your fears and being like, I'm not super comfortable in front of the camera. I'm not super comfortable with public speaking, even though you do a good job. And you're doing like you're killing it, right? And I think people really like it. Now it helps that you're a good looking woman. Um,
Oh,
and I'm,
why, thank you.
yeah. Well, I'm just saying the reality is out there, right? Like it's so hard. And this is one of the things, yeah, I know, poor men, right? But this is one of the harder things for men on social media.
Well,
Uh,
now wait there. I have a
all
rebuttal
right.
because I shared this with you the other day. Sometimes
Yeah.
as a female, we face other, trials or challenges, right?
Yeah.
Because I want to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
I don't want to be flirted with. I don't want to be DM'd to ask if I want to go on a date.
Right.
I would like to help you if you're interested in real estate. So sometimes we have different challenges that we need to face. And
Yeah.
granted, keeping in mind that I have to be aware of like my presence because, obviously I'm in a committed relationship and I want to respect, my significant other.
Right.
So I think it's very important the persona or however you're developing yourself because we all know that there are some ways you can sell and sell very quickly and this is any industry you do hands down.
Word.
I don't need to say it, everybody knows it, we all know it, no matter what type of sales I've been in over the years. That's number one, right?
Yeah.
So I refuse to build my business this way. So you do have to be very comfortable with who you are,
Hmm.
confident in your knowledge base, and like referencing back to what you're just speaking to, experience.
Hmm.
You cannot knock the years of experience. It's like this thing I just got sent this morning. Bing, I just got it. It was a speaker, and he was saying, when the alarm clock goes off at 5 a.m., you make up every excuse in your head as to why you're not going to get up,
Right.
right? You need to stop that right now. You need to do it. You need to make yourself uncomfortable. You need to keep pushing because you're going to be a lot more uncomfortable to be successful than comfortable. And I was like, oh my gosh, that resonated with me. I
Yeah.
sat on that and I was like, that's me. That's me. Like,
Hmm.
that's been me. I always kept myself in a box because I was so uncomfortable with doing anything
Right.
outside, showing my face, but it's like you've got to push yourself.
Yeah. What's
You have
that?
to.
There's a saying, death is the comfort of creativity and productivity.
Yes.
And I think that is true, right? I've kind of battled with that over the last couple of years because, I grew up in foster care and it was extremely difficult for me for many years to be able to like even there's this guy I follow on TikTok. I'm not going off on a tangent, but it reminded me. He does this thing where like he talks to people that are not doing well with their finances and he's like kind of a dick to him. He's like, can't believe you spent that much money on whatever, right?
I think I know. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
and
yeah.
somebody they had like they were buying all of these things, right? And they weren't paying their bills. And there were multiple times and that sort of action doesn't resonate with me because there were multiple times when I was in college that I chose to pay my bills and not have food, right? And
Mhm.
so it was that's such a weird thing for me, but like kind of to what you're talking about is we have these experiences in life and we try to bring them into what we're doing. But I had somebody on the podcast not too long ago, and I think about this from time to time because, in some way or form, I would say that I have like feminist beliefs, and I feel I'm just a very like sympathetic and empathetic person. I always have been. And so I'm like worried for women just in general, especially like as a realtor, right? I had somebody on the show. She was a woman, and we were talking about like how scary it can be for women to go do show houses by themselves, right? And
Oh
you
yeah.
can only do it at certain times, and you got to be very like. And then that's the other thing is like guys trying to hit on you and like only wanting like certain things. And I'm like, I get you guys have your own sets of battles And then on the other end, like we're dealing with ours. So it's, it's everybody has their own thing that they have to deal with. But
But
um,
I just want to say briefly, I think back to what we were saying a little while ago is when you incorporate your lifestyle, real estate is not a job, it is a lifestyle.
yeah, well, that's
So,
the scary thing
whatever that
too,
means
right?
to you, what was that?
That's the scary thing too, because you essentially, it's you essentially like your job is your life and your life is your job in a way. And a lot of people try to steer away from that because their jobs are so much different than what their lives are. And they don't want them to intermingle, but we do the opposite. Yeah.
Right. So, let me give you an example. My baby says to me this morning, Mommy, I wanna go show houses again because I'm the one who sells them. They like me because I'm cute.
Nice.
I said, "There you go, girl. We're going." Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
And just, piggybacking on the conversations you've had in previous podcasts, with your female guest, you're right, it can be very scary. I've had a couple instances where your gut tells you no,
Yeah.
and I literally didn't go in, because I was like, something doesn't feel right,
Yeah.
or this person's approaching me and I just feel very uncomfortable. So you do have to pay attention to those things. But then just the reason why I bring up lifestyles, because for me, I would bring my partner and invite, like if I had to do a late showing
Mm.
and I knew, I would say, hey, do you think you're available and we can even meet
Yeah.
there? Sure, no problem. You don't have to accompany me in the home, but
Mm.
just the presence,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So there are some things that you have to consider, um, in this business for sure. But yeah, you're right. We all have
Anyway,
our
I think
battles.
we've gone a little dark, haven't we? But the point I think we're kind of making beforehand is we're getting really active. We're doing a lot of things. You're really starting to show your personality and your life, and you're getting a lot more involved because you're back in Sacramento. And that kind of brings me to why I wanted you on the show, which is we have launched a new show. Yes, I'm still doing the Hard Money Show. Yes, you can still hear the podcast, but Lisa was saying like, "Hey, I'm interested in doing something. I'm interested in being more visible. I want to talk about Sacramento more. I want to get information out there." And I said, let me think about that because that's a lot of work, right? And you were like, "Well,
Yeah.
I'll do this." And I said, "Look, if you do these parts, I'll do this part." And you followed through. And so I'm following through. And why don't we talk about that a little bit? Why don't you tell everybody what the show is called, where it's at, how they can find it, and what we're going to be talking, well, what we are talking about on the show?
Yes. So we came up with the name What's Good Sacramento. And I just remember going back and forth with you, which is a crack up. So if you guys don't really know Mac and I by now, it's like we're almost like brother and sister.
Mhm.
Like you could just be real raw and just like, oh no, I don't like that or whatever. So we threw around a couple names. And then I remember texting you, I was like, okay, I think I got
Uh,
it. But before you knock it, say it 3 times. And you immediately responded. You're like, hey, I like it. I was like, all right, great. So it's called What's Good Sacramento. And I think it's so appropriate because we're here in Sacramento. We're both residents here and we sell real estate and help with home loans, right?
yeah.
So we decided to commit to launch weekly. We talk about real estate and loans, but we bring so much more to life, and that's something you and I both felt was so appropriate for the show. It's like we don't want to just be another show that talks about numbers and stats
Mm.
and anybody can do that, but what else is going on around here? And one big takeaway for me was like when I was thinking about it, if I was interested in buying a house in a city or any underlying cities around the area, I really do want to know what's going on.
Mhm.
I want to understand what the schools are like, what's coming up, what's being built, what's new, what's old. And that's kind of what we do. We've created this whole segment where we touch on all these fine points. And I feel like every week we're just bringing more to the table and I'm loving it. I know, like you mentioned, we're both kind of stepping up our game, if you will, right?
Mhm.
And just really steadily growing with the show. So, where you can find us is YouTube, right? What's Good Sacramento. We also post our videos, and I've become savvy and added the links on my Instagram, listings underscore by Lisa. You can go on my bio, click on the links, it'll take you straight to the YouTube channel and you can watch our segments there. We've also posted them on our Facebook, What's Good
Mhm.
Sacramento. So yeah, it's really live. It's happening.
I just had this thought where we open and we say, you're here listening to What's Good Sacramento, where we tell you what's good in Sacramento.
Well, there you go.
I don't know if that's any good, but it just came to my mind. So,
So we're gonna use it.
but yeah, guys. So we launched What's Good Sacramento, and the thing that I like, but we're still developing it, right? These things I think are they're best when you kind of start them, you get into it, and then you start trying to learn to develop it a little bit more and a little bit more, right? And we're still dealing with a couple filming issues. We're both trying to get our offices set up so they look right. And so there's some things in there. But for the most part, things are coming together really well. And we're starting to get, a structure for the show. And to me, it kind of feels like part news, like in the morning when you listen to the news, and it's not really news, it's more like Good Day Sacramento, where it's like
Yeah.
these are the fun things that are going on. It's part that, it's part like CNN or something like that, where you're listening to hard numbers. And then and what we're trying to add in a little bit more is a little more like talk show-ish, right? Where we add in some fun segments. We talk about some stuff that's just stupid, and try to do that. And so that's what I'm really excited about. And I guess that's the first thing. The second thing that I'm really excited about is that I don't have to do all the work myself, which I almost always have to do on everything I do with somebody else. And Lisa stepped up. She's making the script and she's learning about the communities and she's sending it over and we're practicing. She's getting all the photos. And so it makes life so much easier. It makes it more of a partnership, right? So I appreciate that. Thank you very much. You've made our lives much easier.
You know what I have to say too, Mac? Honestly, for both of us, um, just the commitment, agreeing to, yes, I will commit to this week over week, and this is what I'm going to do. And you mentioned how we're still developing, right? We're still fine tuning these things. And my true feeling on the matter is if you don't start, you'll never start,
Mhm.
right? We can only go up from here. So we'll find the flaws. We're
Yeah.
both a bit of perfectionists, but we'll continue to grow. And that's what makes me so excited because every week I'm like, oh, we're going to do better. Oh, this is going to get better. And we kind of bounce off ideas. And that truly is a partnership.
Mhm.
And we work together professionally. We're doing these other, shows. So it's just really building blocks,
Yeah.
right? And that's what I really appreciate.
And our number one goal from doing the show is we want to get rich. If we don't get rich, guys, we're not doing it anymore. So just remember that, okay? If we're not famous freaking influencers within a year, that's done. No, but I mean, the really everything that we kind of do is part we need to generate business, right? It's how it's kind of like I try to be really upfront about that and really like authentic about it because the fact is that's how we put food on our table. It's how we put our kids through college. It's how we're gonna put, gas in our car. And we don't just do it for altruistic sakes. Now, I will say the podcast is a little more that direction because for me, I got really frustrated with the negative narrative around our industry. And I was like, that's not, I mean, there is a lot of it, right? There is a lot of people that are really bad at this career. But there's a lot of people that are great and a lot of people that take it seriously and do it right. And I really want to highlight those people, right? But yeah, I want to get business out of the podcast. And that's sort of the similar with our show, right? We want to highlight things that are going on in the community. We want to educate ourselves so we are more understanding of the how to meet people's needs. And but we end the show with a call to action, right? Like, hey, message us. We'll give you a free community analysis. We'll do a free credit report analysis with you. We'll set up your roadmap to home ownership. And that's kind of the last thing. Like, hey, this is, we're not just doing this for entertainment's sake. Like, most people are going to have a really tough time getting into a property this is your, this is us telling you this is the time to take action.
Absolutely. I think that the takeaway too is making people out there that are listening in comfortable with the idea that we're very approachable
Mm,
and that there's nothing wrong with gaining knowledge.
yeah.
If you start there and you keep referencing the roadmap,
Mm,
building, building towards my goals of home ownership
yep. Exactly.
without a path or direction or steps to take. It's just a dream, it's just an idea. So that's something I think both of us are very passionate about.
Hmm.
And you're right. At the end of the day, it's reminding you guys out there that yes, we are service, we provide services.
Hmm.
We are here to help educate you up.
Exactly. Well, yeah, and I've done a couple things. I haven't really talked about it, but I launched a website, Mac the Mortgage Man. I launched the website, and this is the problem that I kind of have because I do so many things. Is I was like, how do I really get it across to people? Who I am, what I do, what my background is in, what my education is. And so I made a website. When I was in England, I was laid up for a couple of days. I messed up my knee. And so I was like, well, I guess I'll build myself a website. So when I go back to America, I'll have something to show for it, right? And so I did that, and that's been up and running. The podcast is doing well. And now we have this show going. We're doing a lot more on the brokerage side, marketing wise. And I'm kind of building myself up for next year when I plan to take everything, packaged it together, and deliver it out, to the community and essentially say, this is who I am, this is how we can help. And it's been, for a long time, I really focused on how do I help my realtors? How do I help our brokerage? And now that things are kind of settling a little bit, I can start to focus a little bit more on developing this stuff. And I'm really excited about that. You and I talked about that for the show. Like, I want to make a better cover for the YouTube, the YouTube cover. And, we want to promote it more on social media. And so, I know personally, those are sort of the kind of steps I'm taking. We talked about the steps that you're taking. So I'm really excited. I know I say that a lot when I'm on the show because I really enjoy doing the show. So I am genuinely excited when I do it. But I'm really excited for what we're doing and what's going to come of it. And, if it only lasts a year, it only lasts a year, but it's fun and I'm really enjoying it. And I hope we can continue it and, get some business out of it and hopefully bring some value to people.
And what I will say, Mac, is for those of you who don't know Mac or you're questioning, how do I get myself out there? It's that voice. You have that voice that it just captures people so that you maximize on that. You really need to maximize. And so I think that you inspire me because you put yourself out there and you've come up with the ideas, and then I just follow up on it and I piggyback it. And I think that you're a very influential person. So you invite others from the community, other realtors, other, whoever you're inviting
Mm,
onto your show to afford them opportunities, just like you've afforded me to just put ourselves out there
mhm.
and talk about who we are and what we do. And I think that's great. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. It's funny. I did a podcast. This is the third or fourth iteration of a podcast that I've done. The first one was when podcasts were really starting to hit, and when I owned the gym in Midtown, and we started a podcast, and that was really fun. And one of my friends was on who she was a bikini competitor, like bodybuilding for women,
Yeah.
and she told me on the show, she's like, you have such a great voice for podcasting. And I never really thought of myself as like having a nice voice particularly. I've always wished I could sing. Like, I would love to be able to actually sing. And so it was really nice to hear, but it did motivate me just a little bit to be like, okay, like at least somebody thinks that I sound relatively decent on, audio, and that I can continue to do it. And that's partly I try to take like experiences like that for myself and give that to people that I try to work with and be like, you're going to get more comfortable. Eventually, somebody's going to like the things that you do. And those are the people you need to like focus on more than like the other people, that are negative.
Right.
So you're doing that. I'm really excited to see that. More of our realtors are starting to do that at the brokerage. So we are getting towards the end of the podcast. And I do want to let everybody know that I'm doing kind of a new structure this year. I'm kind of doing like the school structure, like K through 12. So I am going to be taking a break from the podcast in July and in August, the same time all the kids are out having fun. But for me, I want to take 2 months to really dive into how can I improve the podcast, right? Can I mess with the audio a little bit to make it better? Can I improve the artwork? Can I, improve the guests that we have on? Can I market it better? So that's what I'm going to be doing this year. So this is the last podcast until September, and then we will go back into things in September. So Lisa, I don't know if you knew that, but I'm very happy to have you on as our last guest in the first
Aw.
half of the year. And maybe we can have you on, towards the end of next year so we can talk about how things are going with everything. So thank you for being on. If you, one more time, let everybody know where they can find you, how they can contact you. Obviously, you can watch What's Good Sacramento, and then that's all on there too. So that will still be going on during the summer.
Yeah.
And so that'll be good.
So you can find me on Instagram, listings underscore by underscore Lisa, my name. Facebook is just Lisa Abelgas. And then, of course, What's Good Sacramento. So we have the YouTube, we have our own Facebook. Those are the main forms. Obviously, if you click on my bio, you've got my contact information there, the brokerage information. So, yeah.
Can you spell your last name for everybody?
Yes, because it's so simple to pronounce. It's Abelgas. No, I'm just kidding. Abelgas.
There you go. So just in
Yeah.
case you guys are wondering, how do I actually find her, Lisa? So Lisa, thank you for being on. I'm really excited for what we're doing and a lot more to come. And again, guys, tune in. We'll be back in September. But also, if you're missing my voice, you're missing Lisa's face, you can jump on to What's Good Sacramento. Again, we do have a Facebook page for that, as well as we post everything on YouTube, and we'll be developing that more. So thank you guys for being on again. This is the Hard Money Show, where we talk about real estate, home loans, and media. You guys have a great night.
Good night.